Let's get started.
Growing up sheltered from the city above them, the Turtle brothers hone their martial arts skills, but desperately yearn for fame and acceptance. When an opportunity to take down a mutant crime syndicate presents itself, they must decide what is more important, pursuing their dreams or tackling their fears.
Rebecca, let's talk a little bit about why you chose this movie.
I presented this movie as an opportunity for our Cocoon Cast team to look at how a legacy franchise can be reinterpreted for the modern age. It's been slightly happening with Spider-Verse, but the Turtles are their own original protagonists for this movie. I know the cultural reach is intense with this franchise. Michael Bay recently did an interpretation.
Michael Bay has done a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie.
2 of them. He produced both of them. It was his company, Platinum Dunes.
Okay.
They got that
right.
right.
And he blew up turtles. Somewhere, turtles are blowing up.
True confession, I have not seen the Bay Turtle films. I actively avoided them once I saw the trailer.
Okay, so we've talked about Transformers and their Bayformers.
Yes.
Is there like some cute little title with the turtles like Bayertles or...
Birtles?
Exactly, Birtles.
Honestly, I'm not that involved in the Turtles franchise fandom. I'm vaguely familiar with the basics of the Turtles. I read the Laird and Eastman comics a little bit when I was younger. They're a great parody of the Frank Miller style that was going around at the time.
Okay, and tell our cinema community if they have missed who Frank Miller is.
So Frank Miller is the reason we have a dark Batman.
That's right. Oh, and I know who Frank Miller is. Over the years, we've talked about Frank Miller. You're a big fan.
I'm not a big fan.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're a fan?
I'm a fan. I can appreciate what he does, but I'm not a huge fan.
Okay. Well, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles predate you.
Most definitely.
Yes.
The Turtles were around in the latter part of the 80s, and they became really popular after the first 3 movies, partially in part to Jim Henson's creature effects that were used on these movies.
Okay. No, and again, that makes sense to me that would be before you.
There's also a lot of Mutant Ninja Turtle cartoons that came out when I was a kid.
Honestly, I'm amazed at how universal the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are. And as you said, our team wanted to go see it because it is one of those classic films. And I'll be honest with you, when they first came out, I wouldn't have thought this would constitute a classic, meaning I thought, okay, kind of a flash in the pan. It's kind of fun. It's kind of cute. I remember my younger cousins were big fans of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I know this predates you, but you and I had a discussion recently. Something you did not know, which made me laugh, is when your dad and I actually dressed up as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I did not know this until you revealed this to me.
This is recent news, no pictures, but you can only imagine what that actually looked like. Dad and I literally had cardboard boxes. We cut out the cardboard boxes so there was a shell. We actually painted, I painted, Dad was at work, I believe, and I literally painted little shells on. We went to one of the chain stores, bought some sweats, green sweats. We literally had green sweats. We had shells over, and we did the face paint in green. I don't think we did our hair green, but we were walking around as turtles, and of course, turtles were big back then, so nobody really asked, oh, who are you? They just said, oh, that's interesting.
Well, I find it funny that you've never told me this, because there's one year I didn't know what I wanted to be for Halloween, and you're like, well, what do you want to be for Halloween? I'm like, I don't know, maybe a turtle, so I don't have to...
Maybe a Viking princess?
We can get into that
later. That was another year.
The Valkyrie was another year.
Yes.
But I remember I didn't want to deal with anybody because I was just so introverted out at that point. I'm like, I just want to be a turtle with a shell. And you're like, okay, let's do that. You never brought this up then.
Well, I guess it would have made sense. It did make sense when the movie was present.
That makes sense.
So, yes, I would understand that. So I would say that it would be a part also.
Okay, that makes sense. I think it's just interesting to see the different versions of the turtles that have made their way across the landscape. The first Mutant Ninja Turtle movie that I saw was the CG animated film with Dad.
And that was the Will Arnett?
No, Will Arnett was involved with the Bay-produced Turtles.
Oh, wow. So Lego Batman was a turtle.
Yes. Lego
and
Batman.
Michael Bay was part of this.
Yes, his company, Platinum Dune, secured the rights pretty easily when they were looking for a live-action.
And every time you say this, I hear Platinum Dude, not Platinum Dune, to be clear.
Sand Dune.
Yes, right.
Sand Dune.
Well, and I have goodwill. Like I said, my cousins had watched it. The trailers, and let's remind our cinema community, we go in blind, which means we watch trailers, know a little tiny bit about the movie, but we don't extensively read. So going in blind, the trailers was enough to compel me.
I was really surprised about that because I know you've been really interested in animation post Spider-Verse, seeing how that changes.
That is correct.
I've never had to drag you to an animated movie, but I've noticed you've taken a more of an active interest. So I was really pleasantly surprised that you jumped on board with the idea.
Well, it had a little bit of a grungy feel, a little bit of an edge feel, which to me felt a little bit more energizing versus 4 turtles hanging out in a sewer. It's a little bit rough, a little bit edgy. Art direction was really great. And as you said, the animation, I'm not sure of the technical term of the animation, but it was fast and quick. And
it was very snappy. I was really impressed with the color choices, too. There is a definite color palette to this movie. It's not a black and white movie. It's not a muted gray palette. It's correct. A very vibrant neon-tinged palette.
And lots of, as you said, lots of color. The vividness, that's a great word. I think there was a lot of vividness within the color. I think had it been flatter or muted or just kind of a matte finish versus feeling a little shiny, I think that would have detracted from the movie.
I think I would have been kind of disappointed. I know the original comic is in black and white, but I think audiences nowadays are looking for something more visually engaging, and I think this kind of fits the bill on that.
I would agree with that. And well cast.
Yes, the voice acting, I was pleasantly surprised. There's a lot of celebrities in this cast. I want to point out one in particular.
Sure.
Brady Noon has worked with Seth Rogen, who, if you've seen any of the marketing material, is all over this movie. Brady's worked with Seth on another film. It was called Good Boys that I saw with Dad.
Okay, I was going to say, that doesn't ring a bell to me. Also, we should point out Seth Rogen wrote it and produced it?
Yes.
And did he directed it also?
No, that is Jeff Rowe.
Oh, that's right. That's Jeff Rowe. Okay. Correct.
So Jeff did several episodes of Gravity Falls. He wrote for 11 episodes of Gravity Falls.
And I know that's a show you like.
I really enjoy Gravity Falls. And he also wrote for Disenchantment. I highly encourage you to check that out if you like Matt Groening's work, specifically like Futurama. This is Futurama with a fantasy bent.
Well, and let's talk about the movie. The movie, in terms of themes, it was it's PG.
Yes.
Very family oriented. In a really sweet kind of way, not sappy or...
When we say family-oriented, we mean things like, how does family affect your choices? You can really see how the Turtles' dynamics kind of trickle in and affect a lot of their decisions outside of the family, which I thought was kind of a neat touch.
That's a great point because there is an origin story. If you've never seen Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, say way back in the day, you missed it. Maybe you're younger, like Rebecca. You didn't start off listening to them, watching them. You don't know anything about them. The origin story is woven into the main story. And there's also the part where before there were, well, that's not true. There were mutants from early on, but... how do we say this? They're teenagers, and they felt like teenagers. The banter, the dialogue.
I think a large part of that is the casting for this film.
That is true.
As I mentioned, Brady is 17. He's the oldest. And
he's the oldest? Wow.
Yeah, he definitely telegraphs the oldest. But I really like how it feels natural. It feels like I'm actually listening to a bunch of teenagers.
I totally agree with that. It felt like I was just sitting there, and like we go to movies a lot, or you're sitting someplace and you're listening, and 4 teenagers and brothers.
Yes,
The familiarity,
there's definitely
the
some
overlap, the banter, just the teasing.
Yeah, no, the writing was really cool. It really put me into the place of the characters. And that was the big thing I was concerned about, especially because sometimes they feel older than teenagers in the different versions of the franchise that I've experienced. And it kind of takes away that compelling reason that you want to kind of journey emotionally with the characters. They don't have everything figured out.
And they don't pretend to.
No.
The part that I know this sounds older lady things, but it felt very sweet. Mm-hmm. And I liked that. There was a part about it where their connection was very genuine, very kind toward one another. And yes, they're razzing each other and they're going back and forth. But it wasn't mean. It wasn't a mean tease.
It wasn't malicious.
Malicious is a great word.
There's several moments where the characters are at odds with each other, but it feels organic. It feels natural. If you were in that situation as a sibling, you'd probably feel the same way. Or you'd at least understand where they're coming from. And Jackie Chan as Master Splinter also did a good job of portraying the fatherly figure without being too overbearing.
Well, and he was more than just the father figure. He was their dad. They referred to him as dad. He loved them like a parent.
Yeah,
he
and the parent kid interactions also felt very natural too.
I would agree with that. Honestly, I would have loved to have had more dialogue. And if you've seen any of the trailers, if our cinema community has seen any of the trailers prior to the movie, they'll have a flavor or a taste of what it is, meaning the banter back and forth, kind of the tone. As far as I recall, the trailers had no spoilers of what was to come in the movie. But I could have listened to the banter a lot more.
The banter to me made this movie. The action is a little light, and I think that's just because the Turtles are just starting out their crime-fighting enterprise, if you will.
Yes.
But I feel like the dialogue sells this movie.
At this time, do we have any questions from the box?
Being that we saw it on opening weekend, were there any benefits you want to talk about?
Well, besides seeing it on Dolby Cinema at AMC, there's some goodies we got too. Here's a poster for your collection. And also a comic tie-in. This features a lot of covers from Turtle artists over the years, so you can kind of get inspired as well.
I think for me, I appreciated going in opening weekend. We were able to see it on Dolby, as you had mentioned. Seats were comfortable, not a huge crowd of people going in. Therefore, not a lot of buzz out and about. So I had the opportunity to go in blind and not have any spoilers, which added to my enjoyment to the movie.
I think so, too. I think going in blind will help you, especially considering this franchise has been running for a long time.
Correct. I agree with that. Do we have any questions from the box?
With many versions of the Turtles in existence, including an interpretation by Mr. Bay, does this have staying power versus those other movies?
I think this is a good origin story, and it's a good gateway for people to get into the franchise. So I think this one will have some staying power, especially given the relatability.
Well, and I appreciated, even though I knew the history, hearing the story, hearing the history reinterpreted, as it were, I enjoyed that part because it allowed me to come back to the present. It's like, oh, here's where we are now versus, oh, I remember this in the past. Oh, this was a little of this. So it wasn't like a kind of a patchwork movie situation. It was all inclusive. It brought me present. And if they do a sequel, I would be open to seeing that. Rebecca, it's that time for the ratings on scale 1 to 5 moths flying. Where would they land for you on this movie?
I believe it's a 3 for me.
A 3 for you. And main reason for a 3?
It's not the best story, but it is a pretty solid look at what makes the Turtles the Turtles. And I think there was more room for opportunities that they didn't take. But it's a solid movie.
Okay, agreed. I would also give it a 3, even though I know you and I vary some. My main reason for a 3 is I would have loved more dialogue. I think the movie, time-wise, it was an hour and 39 minutes, which felt complete to me. However, minus some of the action, I would have enjoyed more dialogue.
Thank you for watching this Cocoon cast clip. This clip is taken from our weekly show, which airs on Saturdays.
If you enjoyed this video, you might click on the link or head over to our main movie channel and watch the entire video for more movie goodness. Thanks for watching, and remember, movies are better together.